Alright, so here we are with the Coreblade lateral arcs. So I really love this movement because it hits a few areas that are usually neglected and hard to hit, kind of like we try and do with everything else. But this one in particular, we're looking at the obliques and low back. Obliques are responsible for side bending of the spine, and also the low back also plays a big part in that, and I think it's usually neglected, especially when we're looking at power development or strengthening. We typically go into bridges or back extensions would definitely work well, but when we look at what the low back actually also does is a lot of these side bending movements, and particularly with the low back, it's about decelerating, to protecting the low back against, too much side bending. Because actually a lot of the articulation movement will come from the upper torso up in the thoracic region. So when starting this movement, we'll see here, this is why I slowed it down so you can see the core blade and hand position. The palms are facing forward, and make sure those guys both reach behind the hip. That'll ensure we get the areas in movement that we want. So hands facing forward, both blades behind you. Initiate from the legs, then the body goes, then the arms are nice and relaxed and long. At the bottom of that movement, just like everything else, you want that controlled elastic deceleration. Hear and look for your cues. You're going to hear that whip of the blade, and then you'll actually kind of see the blades wave behind you. And when they're finished with their wave, that's when you start with the next rep. There's some common mistakes that happen in this, especially with the hand position. But as long as we're very clear on instruction with yourself and with your athletes and clients, hands together, palms forward, and make sure they both reach behind the hips. 9 out of 10 times we'll hit the movement right. Another fine point is tell your clients to keep their feet planted. You'll see my feet lift. I don't have a problem with that, but it's more so if you tell someone to keep their feet planted, they're more likely to avoid a lot of pivoting. Pivoting does some different and really cool productive stuff, but if we're trying to focus on the obliques and low back and this, side bending motion, emphasis on keeping the feet relatively stationary will give you the results that you want. So a variation I like to use on this movement is the unilateral lateral core blade wave. There's got to be a better way to say that, but the short end of it is I am loading relatively passively to my left, then throwing hard to my right. So I really like this variation if we're working on power production. If you really want to work on being able to throw and decelerate at higher speeds in a lateral motion, this is a great option. So for this particular variation, the unilateral movements, is I'm going to leave the sound on so you can hear the difference of the blades as I throw hard and as I passively load. There's a definite audible difference. When you throw hard, you're going to hear that kind of low thundering, and when you load in a more passive way, it's going to be a way quieter sound.